healthy longevity needs to be accessible to all populations and should be declared a fundamental human right. The special project of the Regenerative Medicine Foundation is the World Stem Cell Summit. But 2 years ago, I was persuaded to create a new nonprofit called the Healthspan Action Coalition. So
Healthspan, what's Healthspan?
Healthspan is healthy longevity.
Okay.
For years, I would have a session on aging, and we'd have representatives of the Buck Institute,
Right.
or one of the gurus of the field, Aubrey de Grey, was there, and others.
Yeah.
So I realized that one of the pillars, of course, of understanding aging, which is the greatest risk factor of all medical conditions, is aging, was stem cells and regenerative medicine, as well as pharmaceuticals, diet, exercise, lifestyle, the hallmarks of aging. All right, let me continue. So understanding that, I realized that the network that I have been involved with and helped create over the course of 20 years could benefit from the aging research as well. All the science could be applied to the question of treating diseases of aging.
Or treating aging. Which?
Yes, because I also knew that the World Health Organization had recognized a disease classification that aging was a medical condition.
Right.
All right. Well, we treat medical conditions. We treat medical conditions and we can get reimbursed for this. The longevity community, it's often referred to as the billionaires and millionaires who want to live forever, but the resources that are being put into longevity medicine and science are enormous. But how is that going to impact the general population? There was an unmet need. The unmet need was every person, every economic class needs to.
We all know how the story ends with this disease. We know how it ends.
So that being the case, we created an organization to advance the science, to advance the policy, to advance and create the workforce to do this. But the most important thing was to make this, the fruits of this research and science and medicine that's coming about for longevity, healthy longevity, to live a long, healthy life, needs to be accessible to all populations and should be declared a fundamental human right. Healthspan should be a fundamental human right. Here's the point. I teamed up to create the Healthspan Action Coalition with a dear patient advocate friends, Sabrina Cohen. Sabrina was injured at age 14 and became a quadriplegic. She also worked for me as my associate director at the very beginning of the Genetics Policy Institute. And I asked her, Sabrina, you lived with paralysis all this time. What do you think about aging research? And she says, Bernie, in my community, we so are concerned not only that our quality of life is declining, we face accelerated aging and we will die younger. This is a movement that means something to me. And the other person that became a co-founder is Melissa King. Melissa King was the first executive director.
She's a force of nature, yes. Melissa King is.
I wouldn't be doing this if Melissa wasn't involved.
So you've delegated more. You're not taking this project on without help from the very beginning.
Correct.
That sounds like. So you're not carrying the whole load.
Oh, I couldn't carry the whole load.
Yeah.
The team, the core administrative team from the Regenerative Medicine Foundation, which is the evolution from the Genetics Policy Institute, is involved with the Healthspan Action Coalition.
Right.
And many of the organizations that are stem cell advocacy organizations.
How many do you have?
Well, we've gone from 0 in October 2022 to 200.
Isn't that like herding cats? I mean, is it just the logos that are appearing on the website, or? How are you keeping all those together?
I wish it was a collection of logos. The key is what you can do to find common denominators in policy issues. So we issue surveys. We've created a newsletter, the Healthspan Compass, that has about 14,000 subscribers to it, and have a professional science writer, Eve Harold, who wrote Stem Cell Wars and Beyond Human. We have advisory boards on all aspects of this field. And considering the huge resources going into longevity medicine and longevity science, we want to harness those resources in the best way to move forward. And that means also removing artificial barriers to this, hesitancy to adopt new technologies.
Right. That is a big one.
And it's international. It's just not US. We have organizations all over the world.
Where does the hesitancy come from? Is it hubris? Is it an aging out of the stakeholders? Is it a combination of things? Is it market? I see the same thing every day, but I don't know how to put a pin in it.
The goal itself of longevity
is somehow
something to be feared.
Interesting.
What are the egos of the people that are involved? Why should they get the fruits of this? Now, understanding my background in the story, and I get along with people, and I'm naturally curious about things. I rather not judge people. I give everyone the time of day to try to understand. And even the most egotistical millionaire, billionaire that wants to live forever, if they are supporting this field as a whole and benefiting the giant enterprise of science.
As a whole, if they're supporting it, how many are on their own mission for themselves?
The key is to hook up whatever they're investing, because if they control their investments or funding and whatever companies they create,
right,
to get it all on the same page with everyone else, so we can harness the technologies that are emerging and converging at the same time to remove barriers to this giant enterprise to succeed.
Okay.
It's going to can we cure all disease and live to 120 healthy? Can someone freeze themselves when they go and wake up 400 years later? I don't know. All right. I'm not going there, but I'll tell you right now, the cryobiology is an emerging and
it's an advancing
field.
Science. Yes.
It's advancing science. And I'm not going to condemn anything that isn't hurtful and harming people.
Yes.
I want things to advance.
You'd mentioned that you have advisory boards. Do you have an advisory board dedicated to getting the message to investors to broaden their impact while at the same time pursuing their goals?
We have 2 or 3 investment funds that are part of the coalition. We have started to break the coalition into groups from space to law, ethics, and policy, to workforce development, to companies and investors.
Right.
All right. This is an ecosystem, the same ecosystem for stem cells, plus.
Yes, it is. Plus.
As we attract the experts to our advisory boards that are passionate about it or lend their expertise and their institutional gravitas. And getting back to the World Stem Cell Summit, I knew I could not create this movement on my own without the gravitas of important institutions buying in. And the way to do it is to provide platforms, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a World Stem Cell Summit, whether it's a publication, to what do they need? You have to approach everyone not from what you want, but what do they need?
Sure.
You have to care enough. And if there's something that you can match up. So in my mind, it's basically a Rolodex.
What if the future of vision restoration isn't decades away, but already beginning? At Cineragen Vision Therapeutics, we're pioneering regenerative solutions for retinal diseases like macular degeneration and geographic atrophy. backed by science, driven by personal experience, and committed to patients, Cineragen is more than a biotech company. It's a mission to restore sight and renew hope. Visit cineragenvision.com to learn more and be part of the future of vision.
You've asked me before, I've got over 200 organizations, and they've all come together for what we've established as a common purpose. And you said, Doug, now what do I do? Right? And I get that. So do you think this is a situation where you could build it and they will come? Do you think that maybe this could be an organic kind of development that you can sit back just for a little while and see what bubbles up and then step in a leadership position again and provide that direction? Is that the kind of coalition do you think it looks like?
We went from 0 organizations to 200, including some really massive, important organizations like the Diabetes Research Institute Foundation.
Right, big names.
Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative
Sure.
Medicine. Notable organizations that are part of the coalition, as well as very tiny organizations. And what started as a coalition of nonprofits and patient advocacy groups that were sort of like the field that we helped develop for stem cells.
Mm-hmm.
But what we've done is found that scientific societies, medical societies are interested in the field. Companies, cutting edge companies, longevity investment funds,
Right.
workforce development, regional groups have all joined this cause. And it's a meritorious cause because what we're trying to do is bring the fruits of the research, accelerate them to patients and all populations globally. It's international. And we've assembled all the experts and advisory boards to actually have influence and help guide policy towards these meritorious goals.
But it's incredibly diverse. And when you have such a diverse group early on, isn't there a lot of risk for goal diffusion? In other words, you have the small, very small entities who often have broad ideas, maybe even fringe ideas, to the mainstream. You have this mainstream versus innovation all the time going on. How can you possibly craft it so that everyone has their needs met, right? The folks that have joined you have to see a benefit in the alliance aside from a mission statement. It's diverse. What do you do with such diversity?
What we do is we create platforms
Okay.
for them,
Okay.
megaphones for them. As we see policies evolve, maybe a group that's involved with rare disease,
You can send them off onto that kind of course.
we can use our network to connect the dots. And I think the key here is my colleague, COO and co-founder Melissa King, in guiding and building the field operations of the $5.5 billion California initiative for stem cells.
CIRM is
CIRM, California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, and working in the Americans for Cures Foundation as the executive director for years.
Right.
Built a giant network, patient advocacy driven. Remember, it was patient advocates that drove $15 billion of California taxpayer money. We're using that skill set and the skill set that I developed in organizing 22 World Stem Cell Summits and building the networks and inviting all of those people year after year after year. And all the contacts with the journals and all the contacts with the research institutions, knowing what they are doing and seeing a common ground to have regulatory systems keep up with innovation, to develop workforce development of the technical skills that are needed for this, to get basic funding for fundamental research, to commercialization and moving aside roadblocks and making sure it's all meritorious and dealing with the ethics of all of this. And AI, it's a cornucopia of interests, but towards a common goal.
To be positive, that's a great way to put it, but it's a cornucopia of risk too. Let's just say that you have one of the subgroups that is into transhumanism. I know you give them a platform, but they can't all have the same platform because they're too different. How do you unify them?
Well, occasionally you can't unify them. You need to listen to everyone. Now, there are ideologues that are going to try to tear down. You avoid those type of people, you know, the miserable people that are going to just put something down. And but if they have lofty goals and are willing to listen, fair enough. You understand where they're coming from.
Something comes to mind instantly when you say that. It's in a conversation I had with Dr. Francis Collins, and something that I'll never forget. He essentially said, and I'm paraphrasing slightly, but it's pretty accurate. He said it's the common humanity that we recognize that will help us overcome each other's differences. And I saw that with the World Stem Cell Summit, and that's why I pressed you on the Healthspan a little bit.
But Doug, I have seen that in your advocacy for the years that I've known you. You were able to walk through the halls of Congress, and Harry Reid would shake your hand, and Mitch McConnell would shake your hand. Everyone would shake your hand. And it's not that they were left, right, Democratic, Republican. It was not a partisan issue. It's a human issue.
Right.
And you were the consummate human.
Well,
the human issue.
Yeah, I'm like a representative human. Thank you. That's I'll think about that designation. It's the job. It's the role. It's the privilege at the same time, because you really do get to see people at their best and at their worst. You hear the greatest stories and you hear some of the heartbreaking stories. Yes, at the beginning, it was raising your fist and raising awareness along with it, and bringing people together and community building and all of that. But yes, it's great to shake the hands of senators and all that. It's a big ego boost sometimes, and it always makes me feel good. But I had a relationship with Harry Reid after our meetings. He and I stayed in touch for years until just a couple of months before he died. And I have the text messages that I could show you that are heartwarming. He used to read, I would write something for The Hill or for another editorial comment somewhere, and I'd always send it to him to proofread and get his feedback on, and he'd call and ask me how I was doing, and, you know, just different things like that. Because when I was in his office, somewhere around June 23rd, I don't remember exactly, in 2016, some of the first words out of his mouth were, "Doug, I sit in my office 10 hours a day. I don't go anywhere. I'm depressed. I'm lonely," because he was embarrassed that he had lost vision in one of his eyes due to an exercising accident. People didn't know that he was blinded in one eye. And he was starting to have to use a cane, and he was scared to death that his other eye was going to go on him. Well, this is a man that was a boxer,
Right,
who was a man's man, athlete, tough as nails, decided to run for mayor, got a mayorship, and went right from the mayorship into the U.S. Senate. You know, he had a short track to the U.S. leadership. And here he was telling me that he was isolated. And we had a 2-hour-long conversation that day. And when I came out of his office, there were 14 aides waiting at his door with their jaws on the floor saying, "What are you doing?" And I didn't know what they meant, but they said, "Harry Reid hasn't spent more than 10 minutes with anybody in his office for the last 10 years. What went on?"
I love that story.
But it's this common humanity, and I mean, it was a conversation like this. It
Because
was
you know
empathy.
what?
It was a hug.
It was something important, because it wasn't about hierarchies. It was you were speaking as one human being to another. And in general, in advocacy, it's much like diplomacy. All right.
Right.
Some people are unapproachable. Some people might be so full of themselves or have the title. I'm not going to worry about that person.
Right.
All right. I'm not trying to win him or her over. I'm going to be dealing with the people that are open, persuadable, interested, have a message, have a story, or have an unmet need.
Right.
And if I can help those people, regardless of whether it's in stem cell or Healthspan, I'm going to do it because that's, at this point, I possess and my team possesses networks that can do it. And you don't know what that will lead to, but generally something good will come out of it. And that's why when you're in an enterprise that doesn't necessarily have a rule book that's been written and you're writing it as you go along, there are no limits on it. At a man of my age in my community, I could learn to play pickleball, but who wants to break their ankle?
Oh, so I thought you were going to say something else about pickle, but anyway, go ahead.
No.
Yeah.
So here I am. This is the highest and best use of my life at this time. And it also provides endless, interesting, profound insights into an emerging world that I have been able for 22 years to be a part of. And to see it blossom now is just the greatest and most interesting experience that I could have had. There's no way in God's green earth that I, a lawyer in Miami, not an advanced scientist, should have been in this role. I was a sports promoter in the side.
Yeah, you're a little bit of a character from what I understand.
Well, of course, I'm still a character.
Yeah.
All right. I like people. I have a sense of humor that I try to bring into things. I try to be lighthearted, even though my heart might be heavy. It's my way of surviving. Right. Everyone has their, in the vernacular, their own mishigas, their own craziness.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I have survived a lot of things. So, you know, the key is that's what life is about. You keep on going.
If anybody wants to contact you, if they become interested in another organization, perhaps, or an individual or a potential advisor, how would they do that?
Well, healthspanaction.org.
Okay.
It has ways to contact, ways to donate.
Okay.
If you choose, it's a nonprofit organization, but also can reach out to me at Bernard@healthspanaction.org.
Bernard,
I answer my emails. You will hear back. And if you have an organization, you can join. It doesn't cost anything. We were very careful about the organization.
So it's not a membership.
It's not a membership.
Okay.
All right. We vet very carefully the organizations that are involved. We speak to them, Melissa or other members of my team. And if it's a meritorious organization, they are enrolled. We have companies coming on board. The point is we're building the network and learning and toward a vast enterprise.
I really look forward to following up in a year or so, and because it does seem like it's about to establish its identity, and that's going to be exciting. I would suggest that you take on a new label, that you at least consider this. Instead of using the word advocate, consider the word ambassador. You know, moving beyond advocacy is a rite of passage for someone like you. A lot of what you have done has been more as an ambassador. It's so timely.
Faith, hope, love, we hear these three bind, and the one in the middle is a two to survive. Faith, hope, love, we hear these three bind, and the one in the middle is a two to survive. Storyteller, weave a tale to keep us warm. When hope is wearing thin, your story helps us carry on. Oh, dreamer, dreamer, to your dream be true. helps get us through. Faith, hope, love, we hear these three by line, and the one in the middle is a two to survive. Faith, hope, love, we hear these three by line, and the one in the middle is a two to survive. Faith, hope, love, we hear these three by line, and the one in the middle needs a two to survive. Faith, hope, love, we hear these three by line, and the one in the middle needs a two to survive.